Hello my people, I would like to show you a pedal board I just completed. Now, it's not to show off about the pedal board, it's pretty basic, you can see it's all fairly linear. It goes from I'll get into that. But what did I want to do? I wanted to show you how a half-decent pedal board kind of behaves. Now, when Pedal Train came along, and this is a Pedal Train thing, it was like all of our prayers had been answered. Prayers has been answered, not answers. Guitar techs everywhere know the feeling of being in rehearsals with a band and the guitarist comes in day one and says, here's all my pedals, I want to make a pedal board. And you're like, why didn't I know about this weeks ago? And then you would go hunting for a small bit of plywood and some glue and some cord carpet and all that and the Velcro, and it was a total nightmare. So, maybe 20 years, 15 years later, along comes Pedal Train and they make it super easy. And now at one stage of your career as a guitar tech, you might have been all proud of building a pedal board such as this, MDF and wood and that, and it's two-tiered, and yeah, it looks kind of cool. But then what did you need? You had to get a flight case for it, and it just ends up being an expensive, timely mess. Whereas Pedal Train come along, and then all of that stuff is done for you. So once you can let go of your ego to just go with what's available, you're in the home stretch. They give you the Velcro, they give you some cable ties. That's all very nice. So you can really get started to build a pedal board in, I wouldn't say record time, maybe record time, a hell of a lot shorter than it used to be. You can use whatever cables you like. I like to do custom cables to the length that they are kind of needed, maybe a little bit of wiggle room, but I don't like big messy cables. So that's why you cut them to length and everything looks a little nicer. I wanted to talk a little bit about pedal board maintenance, what you should do, what every guitarist should do with your pedal board. And I suppose I'll just get into that and then I'll cut to some video, and the timeline, the continuity will be completely terrible, but who cares? So here is your pedal board. You've come at it, someone's built it for you for the first time, or maybe you finished it off, last night, and you've come to it in the morning and you're like, yeah, I did that, fantastic. So you take it to your first gig, fine, it's doing well, of course it is, you just made it, right? But then, gig number 3, 4, 5, 6, you've chucked it in the van, you've thrown it around. Eventually, all things start to wiggle loose or start to corrode, depending on the environment. So what you should do at every single opportunity, every gig, every rehearsal, without fail, get a little bit of quiet. I think I'll probably mention that in the video bits later on, and go through a few, what do you want to call, safety checks, I suppose. All right, now I'll go into that, but what I wanted to also demonstrate while I've got the camera at this angle is what you should be able to do with your pedal board in order to facilitate good maintenance. All right, so unplug your guitar from it, unplug it from the amp, and unplug it from the mains here, if you have a power supply, as we do here under the bonnet. What you should be able to do with a pedal board, please excuse me while I turn my back to you, you should be able to flip it on its side, flip it upside down without anything going all insane. Now I wouldn't let it travel like that because Velcro and that, things are going to come loose. So whenever you're traveling with your pedal board, try to get it flat. If it's in a case and it's got the foam on it and it's sort of pressing against the pedals, that's kind of cool. If it's in a soft case, you're not going to have that. So put it on top of something flat. Don't stack shit on top of it. Don't be stupid. And so now that it's upside down, you can take a good look at it. And then I think this is probably a good moment to go into the video bits. So. And here is the underside. We have our One Spot Pro, our 9-volt DC supply. It's kind of over spec, I think, for this board because everything on this board is 9 volts. We have here 18 volt outs, and we also have voltage selectable between 9 and 12, and then you can also do the sag drop. So it's good for expansion in future times, but for this particular setup, it's a little bit overkill. But still, if you're going to spend the money on this, why not go big and think ahead? And then let's see, the power cabling is all kind of, I think that's fairly neat. It's, yeah, it's good. You could be really, really anal, I suppose, and in between these cable tie bases, you could get them really taut, and you could get them so that everything lines up and nothing gets twisty, but That's kind of anal. All of the audio cables are sort of above ground and free floating, except for this guy here. This had a slightly longer run, so I thought just get that down with a cable tie base. Up here, we've got more power supply stuff coming in. The reason we do this is to keep it nice and tight, because whatever's happening underneath your board, you don't always see. So you want to make sure that any obstructions on the floor, you know, who knows what sort of stage you're going to be playing on. There could be weird stuff on the stage, whether it's broken glass or some shitty carpet, God knows what. Just keeps your cables nice and tidy. So, you know, also when you go to grab your pedal board at the end of the night, there are no cables on either side here for you to mess up with your hands. You just grab it and go. Wiggling, just like this. When you are setting up your pedal board, and if you get a moment of quiet, run some guitar signal through it into your amp. Try to be kind of quiet so you don't bother the other band members, and also ask the other band members or whoever's making noise, just please give you a few minutes to check out your stuff. It's totally vital. Everyone should be given that courtesy on stage. And while you're there, give everything a little bit of a turn. All your power cables, okay? All your audio cables. And if you need to kneel down on the floor with your guitar while you do it, that's fine. Just strum the open strings. You don't have to be Eric Clapton or anything. Just make a little bit of a noise. And while that noise, or while that sound is coming out of your guitar, give these things a wiggle, okay? Ideally, what you're looking for is absolutely no interruption to the sound whatsoever, okay? Don't be afraid. Just give them a wiggle, because a wiggling actually has a wee bit of a cleaning effect. You know, it's metal against metal on the inside of these things. So get in there, do that. If you hear a sound like, you know that there's a connection that's not the strongest, and you'll get it from the DC connectors. Trust me, they could be like, and hey, let's hear that sound again, right? Once you hear that, it's a sign that there's a little bit of corrosion, and you want to clean the inside of that. I won't cover that here. But basically, you can get a wee tiny file and just sort of scrape off the contacts, but do be gentle. If the sound kind of goes like, it means that there's a bad connection somewhere. It's not just corrosion. Yeah, that's what you want to do. And don't forget to get underneath. Oh my God, I'm looking at myself. I look like a big piece of hairy gammon. Get underneath your board, okay? While it's on, this, you know, you won't necessarily be able to do this with your guitar hunkered down on the stage and, you know, all that. But do the same thing that you did up top with the spinny. Do the barrels inside here and your power supply, and then you move that over. Just give them a wee bit of a wiggle, just a little bit, to make sure you're not getting that sound. Maybe you could actually just take them out and put them back in again. Gently, don't be too hard. Just out and in, and that kind of clears the throat, if you will. It's a little bit like, just like I said, just going, and makes your voice a little bit clearer. It clears the pathways. If there's any dust, any corrosion starting to build on the contacts, just that little bit of abrasive action going in and out, is going to help you in the long run. Just remember where you put it. Don't take it out of your 9-volt 250 milliamp DC socket and go, hey guys, give me something, and then accidentally move it over to like the AC or on this end and to the 18 volt. Just pay attention to where you were, what you were doing, all that sort of stuff. This is why quiet is really good, and it's also good to take a few minutes every so often just to listen to your stuff. So our signal comes into this TU3 here. It goes into the LR Bags venue, fancy parametric type of full isolation DI. There is an XLR output on the back for the clean signal. And it comes out of there, and then it goes into the OC3, and then it goes into the ODB3, which is the bass overdrive, as you can tell, and then it comes out of there into the Strymon timeline. And it comes out of the Strymon timeline into the Polara reverb thingamabobber, and it comes out of the Polara reverb thingamabobber into this LR Bags para acoustic DI, where we have another XLR out for the sort of dirty, Doherty affected sound. And I've also kitted this out with, oh, can you see it? With a DC power socket there in place of the 9-volt battery compartment box, 9-volt battery thingy. So, yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed this informative session. What I should have mentioned a little bit earlier, but of course, you're going to watch this whole thing before you do any of that, right? What I did want to mention was that earlier on when you saw me flip the pedal board over, hopefully you noticed. If you didn't notice, this would be a good opportunity to say, this is just some sort of softy, foamy stuff. If you're going to flip your pedal board over, do it on, soft carpet or a bit of foam. Don't put it on concrete. Don't be dumb. Don't do it on tile, anything that's going to, skate around and do that. And keep your eye on it. I know it lives on the floor. It's not meant to be trodden on. It's meant to be operated with your feet. These things are still, in their own way, kind of delicate, right? So, I hope that concludes a very informative session about pedal boards and every single goddamn thing you need to do to keep it right. So, may your rock and roll gods go with you.